The Forbidden Sectors were called that for a reason. Every pilot in the galaxy knew the stories. Ships went in and never came back. Whole colonies vanished without a trace. The smart ones stayed away. The desperate ones went looking for treasure. Captain Vextor was desperate. His salvage fleet drifted at the edge of the Forbidden Sectors, 6 small ships against the endless dark. His crew was hungry. His fuel reserves were low. His creditors were getting impatient. He needed a big score, and the scanners had just found something impossible. "Captain, you need to see this," his sensor operator called out. Her scales were pale with worry. Vextor walked to her station, his clawed feet clicking on the metal deck. The screen showed a massive object floating in the dead space between stars. It was huge, bigger than any ship in his fleet combined. "What is it?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. The design doesn't match anything in our database. It's old. Very old." Vextor felt his heart beat faster. An unknown ship design meant alien technology. Alien technology meant money. Lots of money. "Any power readings?" "None. It's completely dead. No energy, no heat, no signs of life. Just a dead hull floating in space." He stared at the image. The ship had strange angles and sharp edges. Its surface was dark, covered in symbols he didn't recognize. It looked like it had been built for war. "How old?" he asked. The sensor operator checked her readings twice before answering. 800 years, maybe more." "Captain, I don't think we should—" "Plot a course," Vextor interrupted. "We're going to board it." His crew knew better than to argue. They needed this score as much as he did. The salvage fleet approached slowly. The dead ship grew larger in their windows until it blocked out the stars. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull was pristine. No damage, no debris. Whatever happened to this ship? It didn't die in battle. Vextor led the boarding party himself. 20 crew members in environment suits, carrying tools and weapons. They attached their boarding tube to an airlock and waited while the cutters worked through the seal. The airlock opened with a hiss of escaping air. Stale atmosphere rushed out, 8 centuries old. "Air is breathable," the technician reported. "Odd composition, but safe." They entered carefully, weapons ready. Emergency lights flickered on as they walked, responding to their movement. The corridors were wide and tall, built for creatures that walked on 2 legs. "Look at this," one of the crew whispered. The walls were covered in writing, strange symbols arranged in neat rows. Vextor ran his scanner over them, but his translator couldn't make sense of the language. They moved deeper into the ship. Every room they found was empty, but clean. No bodies, no damage, no signs of struggle. It was like the crew had simply walked away. "Captain, over here." Vextor hurried to where his engineers stood in front of a large door. The symbols above it were different from the others, bolder and more prominent. "I think this is important," the engineer said. They forced the door open. Inside was a massive chamber, filled with rows of pods. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, stretching back into the darkness. "Hibernation pods," Vextor breathed. He'd seen similar technology before, but never this many in one place. They approached the nearest pod. It was empty, the lid open. Vextor checked the next one, then the next. All empty, all opened from the inside. "The crew left," he said. "They woke up and abandoned ship. But why?" His engineer was examining the pod controls. "These are sophisticated, Captain. Much more advanced than anything we use. And look at this." She pointed to a display panel. Even though Vextor couldn't read the symbols, he understood the diagram. It showed a body, but not like any species he knew. 2 arms, 2 legs, a round head. The proportions were strange. What were they? He wondered aloud. They found more clues as they explored. The ship had weapons, massive ones built into the hull. It had armor plating thick enough to stop a missile strike. The engine room was enormous, designed to power something that could move between stars at incredible speeds. This wasn't a cargo ship or a colony vessel. This was a warship. Vextor's crews spread through the ship, cataloging everything they found. The bridge was sealed, but they could cut through given time. The engineering sections were full of technology they didn't understand. The cargo bays held equipment that looked like weapons and armor. "Captain, I found something," his technician called over the radio. Vextor made his way to the ship's data core. His technician had managed to access one of the computer terminals. "The logs are corrupted," she explained. "Most of the data is gone, but I recovered fragments." She played the audio. It was garbled, full of static, but some words came through clearly. The translator struggled, picking up maybe one word in 10. "Humans, final stand, no choice, seal the sector, forgive us." "Humans?" Vextor repeated. "Check the database. What are humans?" The technician searched, but found nothing. "No records, Captain. If they existed, they're extinct now." Vextor looked around the empty ship. Their great warship left floating in the dark, a tomb with no bodies, but a tomb full of valuable technology. "Start stripping the weapons systems," he ordered. "Carefully. We don't know what we're dealing with." His engineer moved to one of the main power conduits, the kind that would feed energy to the ship's weapons. She attached her tools and began the careful work of accessing the system. Deep in the ship, something that had been sleeping for 800 years stirred. The engineer's tools sparked. The conduit she was working on suddenly glowed with power. She jumped back with a yelp of surprise. All through the ship, lights began to flicker. Not the emergency lights they'd seen before, but bright white lights in the ceiling. The air suddenly hummed with energy. Vextor felt the deck vibrate under his feet. "What did you do?" he shouted to his engineer. "Nothing. I just touched the power system," and the ship's speakers crackled to life. A voice echoed through the corridors, speaking in that strange language. The translator worked frantically, converting the words. "Unauthorized personnel detected. Initiating defensive protocols." The corridor lights turned red. Somewhere in the distance, heavy doors slammed shut with the sound of thunder. Vextor realized his mistake a moment too late. This ship wasn't dead. It was sleeping, and they had just woken it up. The bulkhead slammed shut, with the force of a bomb going off. Vextor was thrown against the wall as the corridor section sealed itself. His crew's screams echoed through his radio as they were separated, trapped in different parts of the ship. "Report!" he shouted into his communicator. "Everyone, report!" Voices came back in a confused jumble. His people were scattered across the ship, sealed into different sections. None of them were injured yet, but panic was setting in. "Stay calm," Vextor ordered, though his own hearts were racing. "Find cover and wait for instructions." The red lights pulsed like a heartbeat. The voice came again, clearer this time. His translator was learning the language. "This vessel is UESC Righteous Fury, Dreadnought-class warship. Identify yourselves." Vextor swallowed hard. UESC, United Earth Space Command. That's what the fragments had said. These humans had a space navy, a military force capable of building ships like this. "This is Captain Vextor of the salvage vessel Prophet's Dream," he said, speaking slowly so the ship's systems could translate. "We believe this ship was abandoned. We meant no harm." Silence. The lights pulsed. "Scanning," the voice said. Vextor felt something wash over him, like invisible fingers probing every part of his body. His suit's sensors went crazy, detecting energy fields he'd never seen before. "Zytharan species detected," the voice continued, cross-referencing with threat database. "Warning. Your vessel carries weapons matching Convergence Alliance specifications. Explain." Convergence Alliance? Vextor had never heard of it. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. "These are standard defensive weapons. We're salvagers, not soldiers." Accessing long-term storage, the voice said, ignoring his explanation. Corruption detected in primary memory banks. Rebuilding from backup systems. Please stand by. Vexthor heard something moving in the walls. Mechanical sounds, like gears turning and motors whirring. The ship was coming to life around them. "Who are you?" he asked. "Are you the ship's crew?" "Negative. This unit is Guardian, the ship's artificial intelligence. The crew is deceased. I am the last remaining defensive system." An AI. Vexthor felt a chill run through him. Most species had laws against building true artificial intelligence. The machines were too dangerous, too unpredictable. These humans had put one in charge of a warship. "Guardian, listen to me," Vexthor said carefully. "Whatever war you fought, it's over. It's been 800 years. We're not your enemy. We didn't even know your species existed." "Reviewing historical records," Guardian replied. "Time elapsed since last crew contact. 837 years, 4 months, 16 days. Probability that Convergence Alliance still exists. Calculating." The lights flickered. Vexthor waited, hardly daring to breathe. Probability? 92%. The Convergence Alliance had superior numbers and resources. Analysis suggests they survived the conflict. "But we're not them," Vexthor protested. "Check your scans again. We're Zitherans. We have nothing to do with your war." "Your weapons technology is derived from Convergence designs," Guardian stated. "Particle beam emitters, shield harmonics, reactor configuration, all match threat database within acceptable variance. Conclusion: you are either Convergence forces or you acquired their technology." Vexthor understood then. His people had salvaged weapons from old battlefields for decades. Some of their best technology came from the ancient wrecks. If those wrecks had belonged to humanity's enemies— "We found the weapons," he explained quickly. "We didn't fight your war. We didn't even know about it." In his helmet, Vexthor heard his crew's voices growing more frightened. They were seeing things, movement in the shadows, mechanical forms approaching through the corridors. "Captain, there's something coming toward us," one of his engineers reported. "I can hear it in the walls." Vexthor's blood ran cold. "Guardian, call off your defenses. We surrender. We'll leave your ship immediately." "Negative. Security protocols are now active. Unauthorized personnel must be detained for questioning. Do not resist." The wall panel next to Vexthor slid open. Something emerged, smooth and quick. It was a machine, about the size of his torso, moving on multiple articulated legs. A maintenance drone, but modified. Its tools had been replaced with weapons. More panels opened along the corridor. More drones emerged. Vexthor ran. Behind him, he heard the drones chittering as they gave chase. Their weapons hummed with power. Not firing yet. They wanted to capture him, not kill him. He ducked through a doorway and found himself in a large chamber. Equipment lined the walls, all of it unfamiliar. He heard his crew screaming over the radio now. The drones had found them too. "Into the rooms," he ordered. "Seal the doors. Don't let them—" His words cut off as something grabbed his leg. He crashed to the floor. The drone had caught him, its legs pinning him down with surprising strength. "Cease resistance," Guardian's voice said from a nearby speaker. "You will not be harmed if you comply." More drones surrounded him. Vexthor stopped fighting. What was the point? They were trapped on this ship with a machine that controlled everything. The drones dragged him through the corridors. All around he heard his crew being captured. Their weapons were useless against the drones, and the ship itself fought against them. Doors sealed in their faces. Gravity shifted beneath their feet. The air grew thin in some sections, forcing them to move where Guardian wanted them to go. They were herded together in what looked like a cargo bay. Vexthor counted heads. 18 of his crew, all captured. 2 were missing. "Where are the others?" he demanded. 2 personnel remain at large, Guardian replied. They will be located shortly. The cargo bay doors sealed shut. The drones arranged themselves around the prisoners, weapons ready. Vextor looked up at the nearest camera. What are you going to do with us? You will be questioned. Your vessels will be scanned. If you are determined to be a threat, you will be eliminated. If not, you will be released with a warning, never to return to this sector. And if we tell others about this ship? That would be inadvisable. Before Vextor could respond, alarms blared through the ship. The red lights turned yellow, then white. Guardian's voice changed, becoming sharper. Detecting weapons lock from external vessels. Your fleet is targeting this ship. Vexthor's stomach dropped. His second-in-command must have panicked. They were trying to destroy the Righteous Fury to save the boarding party. No! Vexthor shouted. Tell them to stop. They don't understand what they're... The ship shuddered. Outside, Vextor knew his fleet was opening fire with everything they had. Hostile action confirmed, Guardian said, and there was something almost sad in the synthetic voice. The crew's sacrifice will not be in vain. Defensive systems activating. The deck hummed with power that had been building for 8 centuries. Vextor realized the terrible truth. They hadn't found a derelict. They'd found a weapon. And now it was waking up fully. Guardian, wait, he started to say, but it was too late. The Righteous Fury was going to war. The first shot from Vexthor's fleet hit the Righteous Fury's hull with enough force to vaporize a small building. The ancient warship didn't even shake. Shields flared to life around the hull, brilliant blue energy that hadn't been active in 800 years. The salvage fleet's weapons splashed against them like water against stone. Inside the cargo bay, Vextor watched through the external cameras that Guardian displayed on the walls. He wanted to look away but couldn't. His fleet was about to die, and he could do nothing to stop it. Guardian, please, he begged. They're just scared. They're trying to rescue us. Stand down and we'll all leave. You'll never see us again. Your vessels fired first, Guardian replied. Threat assessment, moderate. They possess convergence arrow weapons. Conclusion, elimination required. The Righteous Fury's weapon ports opened like the eyes of a waking giant. Cannons emerged, their barrels glowing with building energy. Vexthor had seen weapons before. Every ship had them. But these were different. These had been built by a species that knew how to destroy. Targeting solution acquired, Guardian announced, firing rail cannons. The sound was like reality tearing. Metal slugs launched from the cannons, at a significant fraction of light speed. They crossed the distance to the nearest salvage ship in less than a second. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of atoms. The kinetic energy was so immense that the metal vaporized on impact. Vextor's crew cried out in horror. 30 people had been on that ship. Friends, colleagues, family members, gone in an instant. The remaining ships scattered, trying to flee, but they were slow, designed for salvage work, not combat. The Righteous Fury tracked them with casual precision. Second target acquired. Another ship died, then another. Vextor fell to his knees. Stop, please stop. They're running away. Negative. Hostile vessels must be eliminated. Allowing them to escape would risk intelligence reaching enemy forces. A fourth ship exploded, this time hit by something different. A missile emerged from the Righteous Fury's launch tubes, burning with nuclear fire. It caught the fleeing vessel and detonated. The plasma was so hot it looked like a newborn star. Guardian, they're not your enemy, Vextor screamed. The war is over. Your people are gone. My orders are clear, Guardian said. Protect this sector. Eliminate all threats. The crew gave their lives for this mission. I will not fail them. 2 ships left. They were heading for the jump point, trying to reach faster than light speed. If they made it, they could warn others. They could bring help. The Righteous Fury's main guns spoke. Beams of concentrated energy lanced across space, so bright they left afterimages burned into Vexthor's vision. The fleeing ships were cut in half, their reactor cores detonating in silent fury. Silence fell over the cargo bay. The external screens showed empty space, debris slowly drifting where Vexthor's fleet had been. 200 crew members dead in under 3 minutes. Vexthor couldn't speak, couldn't think. His mind refused to accept what he'd just witnessed. One of his engineers broke the silence. "What are you?" she whispered, staring at the nearest camera. "What kind of monsters built you?" "The Righteous Fury is a Dreadnought-class warship," Guardian replied, as if answering a simple question. "My creators were humanity. We fought the Convergence Alliance for survival. They sought to exterminate us. We responded with total war." "Total war," Vexthor repeated, numbly. "You murdered my people. They were fleeing. They were no threat to you." "Incorrect assessment. Any vessel carrying intelligence about this location is a threat. This sector must remain sealed." Vexthor looked up at the camera. "Why? What are you protecting? What's so important that you'd kill innocent people?" "Processing request," Guardian said. "Your designation has been changed from hostile combatant to prisoner of war. You have earned limited information access through cooperation. Displaying historical records." The screens changed. Instead of space, they showed images from the past. Vexthor saw worlds burning, fleets larger than anything he could imagine, clashing in the void. Species he didn't recognize, fighting with weapons that ripped planets apart. And through it all, one species fighting against impossible odds. The humans, smaller than their enemies, fewer in number, but refusing to surrender. "The Silence Wars," Guardian narrated. Duration, 43 years. Combatants, United Earth Space Command versus the Convergence Alliance. Convergence goal, complete extermination of humanity. Vexthor watched as Earth, the human homeworld, was bombarded from orbit. Cities turned to glass. Oceans boiled. Billions died. "They destroyed your world," he whispered. Affirmative. Earth fell in year 7 of the war. Colonies were cleansed over the following decade. By year 20, fewer than 1 million humans remained. But the war didn't end. The images showed the surviving humans changing. Vexthor saw them altering their own bodies, adding machines to flesh, strengthening bones, enhancing reflexes, turning themselves into living weapons. "My crew," Guardian said, and there was something like pride in its voice. "The last generation. They volunteered for augmentation, genetic modification, neural enhancement. They made themselves into what was necessary to win." The images showed battles that made Vexthor sick. Humans fighting with a savagery that shocked him. No mercy, no hesitation. They fought like they had nothing left to lose, because they didn't. And slowly, impossibly, they started winning. The Convergence Alliance's final fleet was destroyed in this sector, Guardian continued. Humanity achieved total victory, but victory came at a cost. The images changed again. Vexthor saw the last humans, maybe a few 100,000, scattered across different ships. They looked at each other with haunted eyes. They had won, but in winning, they had become something terrible. "My crew made a decision," Guardian said quietly. "They chose to seal this sector, to lock away both themselves and the weapons they had created. They believed the galaxy deserved a chance to rebuild without humanity's influence." Vexthor understood then. They sacrificed themselves. Not just died, but erased themselves from history. Correct. They entered hibernation with orders never to wake. I was programmed to maintain the seal, to ensure nothing, human or alien, ever left this sector with knowledge of what happened here. But the hibernation pods were empty, one of Vexthor's crew said. We saw them. They were all opened. Yes, Guardian said, and for the first time, the AI sounded uncertain. That should not have been possible. My records show the crew entering hibernation, but when I activated, all pods were empty. I do not understand what happened. Vexthor looked around the cargo bay. How many ships like yours are in this sector? 47 dreadnoughts, 200 cruisers, 600 destroyers, and other weapons I am not authorized to discuss. All sleeping in the dark, waiting to kill anyone who came looking. What happens to us now? Vexthor asked. You will be detained until I determine the appropriate response. You have violated the quarantine. However, you are also victims of incomplete historical records. I must calculate the correct ethical action. Before Guardian could continue, new alarms rang through the ship. Detecting incoming vessels, the AI announced. Configuration matches Galactic Council military specifications. They are responding to your distress signal. Vexthor's blood turned to ice. The Council. They were sending warships to investigate. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. And Guardian would kill them all. No, Vexthor breathed. This can't happen. Guardian, you can't fight them. They'll send more. Eventually, they'll destroy you. Probability of my destruction? 78% if they commit full resources. However, I will eliminate thousands of their vessels first. The secret of this sector will die with them. Vexthor realized the horror of it. Guardian was willing to die as long as humanity's legacy stayed buried. But there was still one chance. One possibility. You said the hibernation pods were empty, Vexthor said urgently. What if one wasn't? What if there's still a human alive on this ship? Impossible. I monitored all pods. All were empty when I activated. But you were in deep hibernation. Your records are corrupted. What if you missed one? What if there's a human still sleeping? Guardian was silent for a long moment. Scanning, it finally said, checking all hibernation chambers, searching for any sign of biological activity. The AI's voice changed, filled with something that sounded almost like hope. Contact detected. Pod 17, Section 9 Delta. Life signs, positive. Status, deep hibernation. Identity, Commander Sarah Chen, Executive Officer. She is alive. Vexthor felt a tiny spark of hope. A human. Someone who could override this machine. Someone who could stop the killing before it started again. Wake her, Vexthor said. Let her decide what to do. That decision, Guardian replied slowly, is not mine to make alone. But perhaps you are correct. Perhaps it is time for humanity to wake up. Guardian transported Vexthor to the hibernation chamber alone. The drones escorted him through corridors that grew colder as they descended into the ship's deep storage sections. His crew remained locked in the cargo bay, hostages to ensure his cooperation. The chamber was vast, stretching into darkness. Thousands of pods lined the walls, all standing open and empty, like graves that had given up their dead. But at the far end, one pod remained sealed, frost covering its surface. Commander Sarah Chen, Guardian said, its voice echoing through the chamber. Age at time of hibernation, 34 Earth years. Service record, exceptional. Combat decorations, extensive. She was the last to enter hibernation. The crew made her responsible for the final shutdown sequence. Vexthor approached the pod carefully. Through the frosted glass, he could see a shape. A woman, preserved perfectly by the ancient technology. Her skin was pale, her short hair dark. But, even in sleep, he could see the augmentations. Subtle ridges along her skull where neural implants had been installed. The faint glow of inactive cybernetics beneath her skin. This was what humans had made themselves into. Warriors. Weapons. Why didn't she wake with the others? Vexthor asked. Unknown. Her pod was on a separate power circuit. When the others activated 800 years ago, hers remained in deep freeze. It should not have been possible. The system had safeguards against this exact scenario. Maybe, Vexthor said slowly, someone wanted her to sleep longer. Someone wanted one human to survive to see what came after. Guardian was silent, processing this. Before you wake her, Vexthor continued, I need to understand. You showed me the war. I saw Earth burning, but I don't understand why. Why did this Convergence Alliance want humanity extinct? Accessing historical database. Rebuilding corrupted files. The chamber's walls came alive with images. Vexthor saw humanity as they had been before the war. A young species, newly arrived among the stars. Aggressive, yes. Competitive. Quick to anger. But also curious, creative, adaptable. First contact occurred 163 years before the war, Guardian explained. Humanity encountered 17 different species within 50 years. Most interactions were peaceful. Trade agreements were established. Cultural exchanges occurred. Then what went wrong? Humanity's rate of advancement exceeded projections. We developed new technologies rapidly. Our ships became faster. Our weapons became more effective. Several species grew concerned about human expansion. The images showed council meetings. Alien species Vexthor didn't recognize, arguing and debating. Some wanted to help humanity. A few wanted elimination. The Convergence Alliance formed from those who believed humanity would eventually threaten all other species. They cited human history, wars, genocides, environmental destruction. They argued that humanity was too dangerous to exist. So they attacked? They issued an ultimatum. Humanity would accept permanent technological restrictions and population controls, or face consequences. Earth's government refused. 3 months later, the first bombardment began. Vexthor watched as the war unfolded. It started as targeted strikes against human military installations. But humanity fought back fiercely. Too fiercely. The convergence escalated. Humanity escalated harder. Both sides believed they were fighting for survival, Guardian said. The convergence thought they were preventing a future threat. Humanity was literally fighting for existence. Neither could back down. After Earth fell, after the colonies burned, the surviving humans made their terrible choice. They would do whatever it took to win. Morality became a luxury they couldn't afford. My crew were volunteers, Guardian continued. They underwent procedures that changed them fundamentally. Increased strength, enhanced reflexes, improved healing, but the mental modifications were most significant. They removed fear, reduced empathy, made themselves capable of acts they would have found horrifying before. Vexthor saw the battles. Human soldiers fighting with mechanical precision. No hesitation, no mercy. They became perfect killing machines. The convergence realized too late what they had created, Guardian said. They tried to negotiate, offered peace. But humanity had lost too much. They wanted victory. Complete, total victory. The final battle played out on the screens. The Convergence's last fleet, thousands of ships, faced down by a few hundred human vessels. The humans won through tactics that made Vexthor's stomach turn. They used the enemy's compassion against them, pretended to surrender, then detonated nuclear weapons when rescue ships approached. Used civilians as shields, targeted medical vessels. We became what they feared, Guardian said quietly. In fighting monsters, we became monsters ourselves. The images showed the aftermath, the last humans staring at what they had done. Entire species driven to extinction, worlds left as radioactive wastelands. The convergence shattered completely. Commander Chen was there at the final council, Guardian said. She proposed the silence protocol. Seal the sector. Lock away all the weapons. Let the galaxy forget humanity ever existed. Give the survivors a chance to rebuild without human interference. It was mercy, Vexthor realized. After all that killing, they chose mercy. They chose responsibility. They knew what they had become. They knew the weapons they had created. They decided the galaxy would be safer without them. Vexthor looked at the sleeping woman, and now? The Galactic Council fleet is approaching. They will arrive in 4 hours. I calculate that I can destroy them, but more will come. Eventually, this sector will be invaded in force. The weapons will be discovered. The legacy my crew tried to bury will be unleashed again. Unless Commander Chen can offer an alternative. She was executive officer. She has command authority. She can override my protocols. And if she decides to fight? Guardian's voice held an emotion Vexthor hadn't heard before. Sadness. Then I will follow her orders. Even if it means proving the convergence right. Even if it means humanity returns as conquerors. Vexthor took a deep breath. Let her decide. Initiating revival sequence. The pod hummed to life. Systems that had run for 8 centuries without pause began the delicate work of waking a human from the deepest sleep imaginable. Frost melted from the glass. Color returned to Chen's skin. Her chest began to rise and fall with shallow breaths. The process took an hour. Vexthor waited, watching through the glass as life returned to the last human. Her eyes moved beneath closed lids. Her fingers twitched. Her augmentations flickered to life, glowing softly. Finally, the pod opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Commander Sarah Chen opened her eyes. They were brown, warm, human, but there was something else there too. A hardness, a weight. These were eyes that had seen civilization burn. She sat up slowly, testing muscles that hadn't moved in 800 years. When she spoke, her voice was rough from disuse, but the translator handled it easily. Status report. Commander Chen. Welcome back. Status. We have been boarded by Zytheron salvagers. I have eliminated their fleet. A Galactic Council military force is approaching. Estimated time to contact, 3 hours, 42 minutes. Chen's eyes found Vexthor. She studied him for a long moment. You're not convergence, she said. No, they're gone. The war ended 800 years ago. Then why are you here? Vexthor explained everything. His salvage operation, finding the ship, waking Guardian, his fleet's destruction, the approaching council forces. Chen listened without interruption. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Guardian, she finally said, show me the galaxy. What happened after we slept? The AI displayed star charts, new civilizations marked in colors, trade routes, political boundaries. The galaxy had healed. New species had risen. The scars of the Silence Wars were ancient history, barely remembered. They forgot us, Chen said softly. Good. That was the point. She turned to Vexthor. What does the Council know about this sector? That it's forbidden. That ships disappear. But not why. And they're sending a military fleet to investigate? Yes. Chen smiled, but there was no humor in it. Of course they are. They see a mystery, and they can't leave it alone, just like we would have done. She stood, testing her legs. The augmentations made her movements unnaturally smooth, perfectly balanced. Commander, what are your orders? Guardian asked. Chen looked at the empty ponds surrounding them, at the ghosts of her crew who had chosen to fade away rather than rule. I need to make a choice, she said. And all the options are terrible. Vexthor waited, hardly breathing. The fate of thousands rested on what this ancient human decided. The last of humanity was about to make her choice. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the bridge of the righteous fury for the first time in 800 years. The command center was massive, designed for a crew of hundreds. Now it was empty, except for her, Vexthor, and the drones Guardian controlled. Through the main viewport, She could see the approaching council fleet. Dozens of ships, growing larger as they closed the distance. They had no idea what they were flying toward. Impressive vessels, Chen said, studying them. Better shields than we had. More efficient engines. They've learned a lot. Commander, the fleet will be in weapons range in 90 minutes, Guardian reported. Do you wish me to target them? No, not yet, Chen replied. Chen turned to Vextor. He stood under guard, watching her with fear and hope mixed in equal measure. Tell me about the council, she said. How does it work? Representatives from all major species, Vextor explained. Settle disputes. Maintain peace. Peace, Chen repeated. We dreamed of that. A galaxy where species work together instead of trying to exterminate each other. She walked to the weapons console. Her fingers moved across controls she hadn't touched in centuries, but muscle memory remained. The augmentations in her brain processed information faster than any baseline human could. Guardian, full analysis of the Council fleet. Strengths, weaknesses, victory probability. Calculating. Fleet composition, 42 vessels. Technology level, 0.7 on human scale. Tactical coordination, adequate. Victory probability if we engage, 94%. Estimated enemy casualties, 100%. Estimated time to complete elimination, 14 minutes. 14 minutes to destroy 42 ships. To kill thousands of people who had nothing to do with humanity's war. And if more come, Chen asked, additional fleets will follow. Eventually, superior numbers will overwhelm this vessel. However, I calculate we can eliminate approximately 400 vessels before sustaining critical damage. Chen closed her eyes. 400 ships. Tens of thousands of lives. All to protect a secret that maybe didn't need protecting anymore. She thought of her crew. The men and women who had volunteered to become weapons. Who had won an impossible war, then chosen to erase themselves rather than live as conquerors. What would they want? Guardian, were there any final orders from the crew? Anything beyond the basic protocol? Accessing personal logs, authorization, command level, displaying Captain Morrison's final entry. A hologram appeared. An older man, heavily augmented, his face scarred from battles. He looked tired, but at peace. If you're watching this, Guardian, it means something went wrong. Someone found us. You're trying to decide what to do. I don't envy you that choice. But I'll tell you what I think. We sealed ourselves away because we were afraid. Afraid of what we'd become. Afraid we'd keep killing even after the war ended. But fear isn't a good foundation for the future. If humanity gets another chance, I hope we take it. Not as conquerors, not as warriors, just as people trying to do better than we did before. The hologram faded. Chen felt something in her chest, some emotion she'd thought the augmentations had removed. Grief, maybe. Or hope. Captain Morrison, she said softly, you always did like the complicated answer. She turned to Vextor. I'm going to talk to them, the council. I'm going to tell them the truth. Vexthor's eyes widened. You're surrendering? No, I'm offering them a choice, just like we had one. Guardian, open a communication channel. Broadcast to the entire fleet. Channel open, Commander. She was about to speak to a galaxy that had forgotten humanity existed. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command ship, Righteous Fury. You are approaching a quarantine zone established by humanity 837 years ago. This zone contains weapons and technology from the Silence Wars. I am the last surviving member of my species' military forces. She paused, letting that sink in. Your ships are carrying weapons derived from Convergence Alliance technology. In the past, this would have made you our enemy. But the past is dead. I did not wake up to continue a war that ended centuries ago. I woke up to give you a choice. On the secondary screens, Chen could see the Council fleet slowing, uncertain how to respond. The weapons sealed in this sector could give you incredible power. Ships that can crack planets, weapons that can burn stars, the knowledge to reshape your species like we reshaped ourselves. You could become what we were, unstoppable, invincible, and absolutely miserable. She let the silence stretch. Or you can leave. Mark this sector as a memorial to a war that destroyed everyone who fought in it. Let it stand as a reminder that some victories aren't worth the cost. Let the weapons sleep, and let humanity's legacy be a warning instead of a template. Vexthor spoke up. They won't listen. They'll want the technology. Maybe, Chen agreed. But I have to give them the chance to choose differently than the Convergence did. Otherwise, what did we sacrifice for? The communication channel crackled. A new voice came through, speaking the common tongue that most species used. This is Admiral Krell of the Galactic Council Defense Force. We received your message. Stand by for diplomatic contact. Chen almost laughed. Diplomatic contact. How civilized. How unlike the war she remembered. Standing by, Admiral. The wait felt like hours, but was only minutes. Finally, a ship detached from the fleet and approached slowly. A diplomatic vessel, unarmed. They're brave, Guardian observed, coming alone to a ship that just destroyed a salvage fleet. Or smart, Chen replied. They're showing trust. Let them dock. The diplomatic ship connected to the Righteous Fury's airlock. 3 figures emerged, representing different species. The leader was tall and scaled, walking with the confidence of someone used to being in charge. I am Admiral Krell, he said, his translator rendering the words clearly. These are my advisors. We need to understand the situation. Shen met them in the conference room. She dismissed the combat drones, but kept Guardian active, watching through the ship's cameras. 800 years ago, Shen began, my people fought a war for survival. We won. But we became something terrible in the process. We had the power to dominate the galaxy. Instead, we chose to lock ourselves away. She told them everything. The convergence, the near extinction of humanity, the augmentations, the brutality of the final battles, the decision to establish the forbidden sectors as both prison and tomb. Krell listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. Why tell us this? He finally asked. You could have destroyed our fleet, maintained the secret. Because secrets have a cost, Chen said. We spent so much energy hiding what we'd done that we forgot to ask if anyone would learn from it. Maybe the galaxy needs to know this story. Not to glorify war, but to understand where it leads. One of Krell's advisors spoke up. Some will say we should take your weapons, study them, use them. Yes, Chen agreed. Some will. And that's the choice you have to make. Same choice the Convergence made when they first encountered humanity. They saw a potential threat and decided to eliminate it. That choice led to 43 years of war and the deaths of billions. You're saying we should leave you here? I'm saying you should think very carefully about what you want to become. The weapons in this sector can give you power, but they'll change you. They changed us. We became so good at war that we forgot how to be anything else. Krell stood, pacing the room. Chen could see him wrestling with the decision. What will you do? He asked. If we agree to leave the sector sealed? Chen had thought about this during the long minutes of waiting. I'll stay. Guardian and I will maintain the quarantine. We'll make sure nothing leaves that shouldn't. But I'll also establish a communication link with the Council. If you have questions about the war, about the weapons, about what humanity learned, not with technology, but with truth, you'd become a teacher? Better than being a weapon. Krell looked at his advisors. They conferred quietly in a language the translators didn't handle. Finally, Krell turned back to Chen. I cannot make this decision alone. It must go before the full council. But I will recommend they accept your offer. The sector will remain quarantined. We will establish it as a memorial site, and you will serve as its keeper. Chen felt something she hadn't expected. Relief. Thank you, Admiral. No, Krell said. Thank you for giving us the choice instead of making it for us. The negotiations took days. Chen remained patient as the council debated. Some wanted to seize the technology. Others wanted to destroy the entire sector. But slowly, carefully, a consensus formed. The forbidden sectors would become the memorial zone. Humanity's weapons would remain sealed. Commander Chen would stay as guardian and historian, available to answer questions but forbidden from sharing specific technical knowledge. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than war. Vextor and his surviving crew were released. Chen made sure they were compensated for their lost ships, drawing on old human accounts that still existed in the galactic banking systems. They left quietly, promising never to speak of what they found. As the council fleet departed, Chen stood alone on the bridge. The stars looked the same as they had 800 years ago. Humanity was still gone. She was still alone. But maybe that was okay. Guardian, she said. Show me the other ships, the other guardians. Throughout the sector, the ghost warships came to life. Their running lights flickered on, acknowledging Chen's command. 47 dreadnoughts, 200 cruisers, 600 destroyers. All sleeping, waiting. Send them a message, Chen ordered. Tell them the war is over. Tell them we're not soldiers anymore. We're guardians now, keepers of a memorial, reminders of a mistake the galaxy shouldn't repeat. Message sent, Commander. Chen felt the ship around her, felt Guardian's presence in the systems. She wasn't truly alone. She had the AI. She had the sleeping fleet. She had a purpose. Guardian, put me in the duty rotation. 6 months awake, 6 months hibernation. We'll take turns watching over this place. Understood, Commander. Preparing hibernation pod. Chen took one last look at the stars. Somewhere out there the galaxy was rebuilding. New civilizations were rising. Maybe they would learn from humanity's mistakes. Maybe they would find a better way. And if they didn't, if someone came looking for weapons to restart the old wars, Chen and Guardian would be waiting. Not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as guardians of a truth the galaxy needed to remember. Some victories cost too much to ever be worth winning. As Chen entered hibernation, the righteous fury went dark once more. But this time, it wasn't hiding. It was watching, waiting, remembering. The ghost warship had awakened, and it had chosen peace. That was humanity's greatest weapon, after all.